Do you think Ambassador Abiy's popularity is still out there as compared to it was 2 years back?
Pardon me? I didn't hear what you said.
Do you think Abiy's popularity is still out there as compared to it was 2 years back?
Do I think his popularity
is still out there? Do you think he is still popular as compared to he was 2 years back? That's the point.
It must be a joke. I mean,
anyways, this is a yes.
No, he's
sorry.
Not.
Sorry,
he's not. He's not popular. At the beginning, the popularity came from saying things each according to his needs. You know, like if you remember, the Prime Minister will go to a region and will say things that will uplift the people of that region, like in the case of Tigray. And yet he will go to Afar, but he will tell them.
What was the case of Tigray, anyways?
If Tigray was that, you know, Ethiopia without Tigray is a vehicle without a motor or something. He even
flattered, maybe.
Sure, but how would you know at that time? Many people thought he was genuine, calling our heroes by name, until few days back, telling that the Derg was self-destructive. No one defeated the Derg. This was like, I think, 2 weeks after Mekelle, he went to Afar. So that by itself was problematic. I was in the United States when the Prime Minister made his first visit. And when I heard when I heard him addressing the crowd, and the diaspora felt he was some kind of messiah sent from the heavens. So-called human rights activists were bowing on his shoe. It is beyond me. And then he said, we were in the dark for the last 27 years. I was surprised. But what surprised me most was, I spoke later when I come back to Addis to some of the PRDF leadership. And I want to get this from a non-Tigrayan member of the PRDF. And I asked one of my colleagues from another political party. And he told me, the Prime Minister have said, he just said what the crowd wants to hear. It is not that he believed that we were in the dark, but he said, I wanted to disarm the diaspora, make them feel good that he is against Weyane, because Weyane was supposed to be reigning on the 27 years. This to me was the first and last thing that I concluded. This is not a political leader. I'm sorry to say, but this is just acting. You don't say that as the leader of a government. You convey to the crowd what the PRDF leadership has concluded in its 27 years ongoing. We have done this miracles, but we have also failed on this. Overall,
we had to balance things.
Ethiopia was far from being in the dark. It has never been in such a lighthouse in its history. Therefore, when you speak to Tigrayans, tell them what they wanted to hear. This is what populist is. It is fundamentally the ideology of populist. You know, the Americans say, when you speak to the African Americans, you change your accent. You speak like African Americans, just to create a chemistry. And then you say some nice words about their background, not fundamentally. When you go to the extreme right-wing whites, you speak their accent, and then they embrace you. These are some of the populists they tell you in the United States to attract. If you are among minorities, you embrace from the way you dress, the way you talk, like you act like a Mexican or an African, what have you. Therefore, when these are fundamental, not by accident, it's not a slip of the tongue. All you do is basically your thinking, your populist thinking. Therefore, some people will tell me that he just speaks wrongly, speaks about no. Everything is, if they don't believe me, they should read Madamar. I have read it, and it is exactly the prescription of what we are facing today.
Okay, let's be back to what we started to discuss. So you said it's a joke. What's the justification? What's the rationale behind that Abiy is not popular as popular he was?
Well, the popularity came at that time basically from two things. The Ethiopian people, especially the youth, have been asking for a change. It wants to be a stakeholder. Therefore, the disturbances, the beginning, the Oromia region, to be followed by other regions, and also within the APRDF party, that there has to be some things to be done. It's a long history, but basically, the APRDF was not addressing the issue of the day, and it opted for a reform. To seriously look into itself and ask the Ethiopian people to forgive it for the misdeeds it did, and continue to deliver better democracy, better development, peace, what have you. So under these circumstances, when a new leader, for that matter, a charismatic leader, who has words like love, forgiveness, way forward, what have you, with the exception of very few who may know him before that, most Ethiopians, especially those that opted for change, they have no reason not to embrace him. Therefore, there was more or less lack of good leadership after the passing away of the late Prime Minister Mallas. Many agree. Prime Minister Hailemariam Desalegn was doing his job, but I mean, it was, I don't want to use a non-democratic diplomatic word, but he was just an average person, if not a mediocre. Therefore, both as the top of the leader and collectively, the APRDF was failing in many ways to address the issues of the day. So, despite the way the Prime Minister came, that became clear later on, many felt he was the right person for the right time. And therefore, and as I said earlier, people want to give him the benefit of the doubt. He has the nice words for everybody. And when people hear about themselves that the Prime Minister was such a genuine person to them, they don't even give attention to what was saying some other place, even if he was speaking against what he told them. So until the nitty-gritty of leading a government came into picture, it was untimely popularity. It's just simply without a single deliverance, without him articulating any way forward, a change in economic policy to better all the shortcomings of the APRDF. He was embraced and became popular because of word of mouth, by him saying the right things, the right approach, as a nice personality. I think the Ethiopian people were looking for some leader, and they have to believe at that time this was him. So they want to give him the support without a single thing on the table. All he was doing was demolishing the government, following that. Demolishing the apparatus of the security, and paralyzing the things, interfering in the affairs of the regions. Today, forget about popularity. I don't think if we were somehow a full-fledged democracy, and if we were to have polls like other democratic countries do, I don't think the prime minister will have the minimum support of the population. I don't think the members of the Prosperity Party will tell you he's popular today. They just tell you he's our leader, and we have to continue doing that. Popularity is different things. And by the way, what is popularity? You know, usually popularity, populist leaders are popular. They say some things that will emotionally make you happy. They support you. Real serious leaders, they don't have to be popular. They have to be respected for their policies. They have to be respected for their integrity. So even if you consider popular, that doesn't mean anything for the average farmer in Ethiopia. Therefore, but if you compare how he was looked at the first few months and today, it is as far as the sky and the earth. We are Ethiopians. We speak to each other. Even those hardcore supporters of the prime minister tell us, you didn't give him a chance. He meant genuine. They don't say he's popular. How do you get popularity? It's just mesmerizing. The day Ethiopian was talking about the position of the United States on GERD, he was seen watering the palace plants. I admire him for doing that. But why the camera? It's insulting to us. We are worried about the GERD, and all you can see him that there is language plants. He can do that if that is his hobby, if that's what he wants to do. But why were the cameras there? Is that, whereas GERD is a matter of Ethiopia's geopolitical life, and to this date he hasn't addressed what's going on. Therefore, you don't get popularity by doing that. The danger is leaders like that, they are surrounded by crowds that tell them they are doing fine, and therefore they will fail to see what's happening in the rest of the country. Therefore, this is what I know unequivocally. He is least popular at this time. Forget about popularity. There is no such thing as, but the media would like you to think so.
Okay, if it is so, how could you describe the current administration's futures if you were given to say so? I mean, to say something in that regard.
The current administration, like any bad government, bad leadership, the Ethiopian people will see to it that, and hopefully through democratic way, just send it to history, that we will have a better government, a better leadership in Ethiopia, because I trust the Ethiopian people. We have come through a long way to continue with this. But whatever lifespan it has, it will continue to cost us. It has cost us so much to this date. Domestically, we have paid a huge price. We're just talking about the social fabric that has been impacted upon, that Ethiopians value for centuries. It will take us a long time to repair it, to go back to what we are known for. We have paid the price among our African brothers and sisters. We have completely alienated them from our affairs, taking issues like the dam to Washington, whereas it is an African water, and there are 10 countries that are directly stakeholders, and we have an initiative that's been working them. They are saying today, what's happening with Ethiopia? Why are they marginalizing us from here? We stood with them against Egypt during all this process. That is a price to pay. Our political for our political space has been compromised. The Americans are now interfering in our own internal affairs. Ethiopian sovereignty has been punctured. I have never seen either in my life, I've been around since King Haile Selassie, so the Derg, even though I didn't work under it that long, and this government, I've never seen any leader of Ethiopia being lectured like a 4-year-old by another country's president to repeat what I have to say. I saw the Prime Minister of Ethiopia in Cairo being told by a language that is not even his official working language, repeat after me, and he just said whatever the president of Egypt wants him to say, and they tell us, he told him, swear in the name of Allah that you will not touch a drop of water that will come to Egypt. First of all, you don't say this in diplomacy, in international relationships. You are a sovereign country leader. Nobody tells you to repeat after themselves. This is completely unacceptable, even among friendly countries. You listen to the guy and you make sure what he's said. Imagine that if any leader was going to tell the late Prime Minister to repeat after him. Therefore, even Mengistu Haile Mariam, as brutal as he is, or the late Aklilu Habtold of Ethiopia, all this international diplomats of Ethiopia, given the history of us and Egypt. Therefore, what does this come from? The current leadership believes foreign relations is not based on national interest, strategic interest, but how you approach people. That is in the book. Your approach, your social interaction, your hugs and embraces is the number one thing that will facilitate the relationships. That is really in the book, which is contrary to what is acceptable classical diplomacy. Every country deals with others based on its priority of national interest. Then the way you talk people, the way you are friendly to people, that is just a way to do your national interest. It helps us to be friendly, to have a personality. But you have to stand your ground when it comes. Therefore, people say, so what if he says this? That is completely un-Ethiopian, even as a single citizen. I serve as an ambassador. I have seen Prime Minister Malles, Haile Mariam function in the United Nations, in other countries. There is a line that nobody crosses when it comes to your country. Therefore, what does it mean? And that is what's subjected to us. If you say this and Americans are behind you, that they will not compromise you. You are the new kid on the block. They will support you and do something. Now we are in the debacle in Washington again. Therefore, this comes from an ideology and manifested in populist leaders that everything will be nice, will be fine if your approach is fine. Nobody has the right to say that. Nobody. When you represent the country, you're not there as a person. Therefore, it distresses me to see this. As not only as a former civil servant, but even as an Ethiopian, it is demeaning that my prime minister should go that far and be clapped like a kid because he repeated after the president of Egypt. Nonsense. It's really nonsense. It's not diplomacy.
So how would you describe Prime Minister Abiy's capability as a Prime Minister to lead the country?
He is a Prime Minister. He is our current Prime Minister. There are issues on how the legitimacy issue of the Prosperity Party.
I'm trying to know your opinion
Yes.
with regard to his capability as a Prime Minister to lead the country.
Well, what we like to say, as a Prime Minister, he's not leading the country how he should be led. But nevertheless, he's the Prime Minister. And we ought to work hard as Ethiopians to replace him democratically through election to a better Prime Minister.
So do you think there is a kind of enabling environment to do so?
You mean there is an environment in Ethiopia?
Kind of enabling environment to change the Prime Minister, you said, yes, through election?
Well, I personally believe, no matter what, to do the election is less costly to Ethiopia than not to do it. It is not to say there is an enabling environment, all the things are given. But I believe not to do the election will have much more consequences to Ethiopia than the challenges that we have to face if we do the election. For one thing, coming September, there is no legitimate government in Ethiopia. Mm-hmm. Finish. And if we don't practice this thing at the early stage, when are we going to do it? Therefore, yes, I'm realistic about all the challenges that we face, given the country situation. But on the balance, let us do the election and face the consequences like all developing democracies. The shortcomings, the side effects that come with a democracy, with an election that is not full-fledged democracy. That is given. You will never have such an election because we cannot go back 5 years back. We can't reverse history. But for now, let's do the election and see what the Ethiopian people will do. Some say the current leadership party, the Prosperity, can even win. I'm willing to live with it. If the people of Ethiopia say that is, so long as it is done democratically, if for any reason they continue to elect this party, let us respect each other and take it with it. But I trust this government, this party will not be the choice of the Ethiopian people. That is what I think personally. That it will not be given a second chance after all these problems.
What do you think Ethiopia's prospect could be if the current status quo continues the way it is now?
The current status quo, as I said earlier, needed to be urgently arrested. It has to be dealt at the earliest time possible. Some people say, well, we are being alarmist, what have you. But I'm afraid if we continue like this, what happened to other countries could happen to Ethiopia.
What do you mean? What happened to other countries? Just like?
Well, if you're telling me the federal government and the regions could not uphold rule of law, anarchy continues to reign, people are displaced, youth are disenchanted, people are being discriminated, even violated because of their identity. What happened in other countries is things deteriorate so much, you go to civil war. And of course, Ethiopians are spiritual people, and they say We've been there for a long time. It's not going to happen to us. No, but time has changed, and the whatever democratic rights and self-rule that I have in Ethiopia, if you're going to tamper with it, the things will not go unchecked. So I don't think we should take a chance by saying, let's continue this status quo and see what happens. We're playing with the lives of Ethiopians. So the best thing is for the current leaders, for the political parties that are in opposition, for the civil society leaders, all sectors of life, they have come to this, as I said, everybody says today, one way or the other, we are in problem. The magnitude may be different from one perspective to the other. But as a country, at least we are in unknown. What's going to happen tomorrow, nobody knows. Therefore, we should all sit down and work together. It is not a matter of partisan politics. We're talking about the country, continuing as a country. Therefore, the sooner the better we do that, the better chance we have for other things to be entertained. At least there has to be peace in this country. Rule of law has to be there. Government has to reinstate its position. Therefore, I hope we do this sooner before it becomes too late.
Okay, let me give you one more chance in case you have something that you would like to add that that could have been discussed. Maybe, any case.
Well, I think I have tried to answer the questions from the little knowledge and experience that I have. But none of us have the last word. What is most important is, despite the different take on Ethiopia we have today, we all have to agree this country of ours needs help. What you hear from day to day is not comforting. Therefore, whatever our political affiliation is, whatever our deep-rooted ideology is, we have to agree basically on a couple of things. One, this country of ours, Ethiopia, is a multinational country. Mm-hmm. And the problem with our country has been, the single most important issue has been the failure or the lack of addressing diversity issue. In the last 27 years, we have gone so far. The Constitution and the federal arrangement based on a Constitution is one thing that needs to be sustained. Therefore, we have to agree on very few fundamental things if we wanted this country to continue, and all the other things will be worked out later. I'm not more concerned about how reconciliation could be done between regions. After all, this is just an elite-made problem. It's not people-based. But fundamentally, where Ethiopia is heading is the federal arrangement, the Constitution. These are fundamentally what Ethiopians have to agree upon. The Constitution is open for any amendment through its process. But these are things that the huge number of Ethiopians, their nations and nationalities, will not let go. They will not surrender. And this is why I said we could be for a worse situation unless we deal with them right now. Therefore, when we say multinational federal arrangement versus unitary, we're not saying that for propaganda purposes. It is determined for this country to keep its integrity, for all of us to stay within this unity, you cannot reverse this. We paid huge prices for this. Ethiopians paid, untold prices for this. It is the only thing that they will not compromise. So the current leadership has to compromise on this. It has come back to what Ethiopians need. Forget about this. If it declares, it will continue along this confusing path of a federal state, but not the way it is now. You cannot fool all the Ethiopians this way. Therefore, this is, I think, the basic two things we have to agree.
Ambassador Fesseha Asgedom, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you so much.
Again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.